Third Addendum, the 12th Word.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In the name of God, the Merciful, the Compassionate.
ومن يؤت الحكمة فقد أوتي خيرا كثيرا.
And he who has been given wisdom has been given great good. Quran chapter 2 verse 269. This word consists of a brief comparison between the sacred wisdom of the All-Wise Qur'an and the wisdom of philosophy and science, and a concise summary of the instruction and training which Quranic wisdom gives to man in his personal life and social life, and an indication of the Qur'an's superiority to other divine words and to all speech. There are 4 principles in this word. First principle: look through the telescope of the following story, which is in the form of a comparison, and see the differences between Quranic wisdom and that of philosophy and science. One time, a renowned ruler who was both religious and a fine craftsman wanted to write the All-Wise Qur'an in a script worthy of the sacredness in its meaning and the miraculousness in its words, so that its marvel-displaying stature would be arrayed in wondrous apparel. The artist king therefore wrote the Qur'an in a truly wonderful fashion. He used all his precious jewels in its writing. In order to indicate the great variety of its truths, he wrote some of its embodied letters in diamonds and emeralds, and some in rubies and agate, and other sorts in brilliants and coral, while others he inscribed with silver and gold. He adorned and decorated it in such a way that everyone, those who knew how to read and those who did not, were full of admiration and astonishment when they beheld it, especially in the view of the people of truth, since the outer beauty was an indication of the brilliant beauty and striking adornment in its meaning. It became a truly precious antique. Then the ruler showed the artistically wrought and bejeweled Qur'an to a European philosopher and to a Muslim scholar. In order to test them and for reward, he commanded them, "Each of you write a work about the wisdom and purposes of this." First the philosopher, then the scholar composed a book about it. However, the philosopher's book discussed only the decorations of the letters and their relationships and conditions, and the properties of the jewels, and described them. It did not touch on their meaning at all, for the European had no knowledge of the Arabic script. He did not even know that the embellished Qur'an was a book, a written piece, expressing a meaning. He rather looked on it as an ornamented antique. He did not know any Arabic, but he was a very good engineer, and he described things very aptly, and he was a skillful chemist and an ingenious jeweler. So this man wrote his work according to those crafts. As for the Muslim scholar, when he looked at the Qur'an, he understood that it was the perspicuous book, the All-Wise Qur'an. This truth-loving person neither attached importance to the external adornments, nor busied himself with the ornamented letters. He became preoccupied with something that was 1,000,000 times higher, more elevated, more subtle, more noble, more beneficial, and more comprehensive than the matters with which the other man had busied himself. For discussing the sacred truths and lights of the mysteries beneath the veil of the decorations, he wrote a truly fine commentary. Then the two of them took their works and presented them to the illustrious ruler. The ruler first took the philosopher's work. He looked at it and saw that the self-centered and nature-worshipping man had worked very hard, but had written nothing of true wisdom. He had understood nothing of its meaning. Indeed, he had confused it and been disrespectful towards it, and ill-mannered even, for supposing that source of truths, the Qur'an, to be meaningless decoration. He had insulted it as being valueless in regard to meaning. So the wise ruler hit him over the head with his work and expelled him from his presence. Then he looked at the work of the other, the truth-loving, scrupulous scholar, and saw that it was an extremely fine and beneficial commentary, a most wise composition full of guidance. "Congratulations! May God bless you," he said. "Thus wisdom is this, and they call those who possess it knowledgeable and wise." As for the other man, he was a craftsman who had exceeded his mark. Then, in reward for the scholar's work, he commanded that in return for each letter, 10 gold pieces should be given him from his inexhaustible treasury. If you have understood the comparison, now look and see the reality. The ornamented Qur'an is this artistically fashioned universe, and the ruler is the pre-eternal all-wise one. As for the two men, one, the European, represents philosophy and its philosophers, and the other the Qur'an and its students. Yes, the All-Wise Qur'an is a most elevated expounder, a most eloquent translator of the mighty Qur'an of the universe. Yes, it is the criterion which instructs man and the jinn concerning the signs of creation, inscribed by the pen of power, on the pages of the universe, and on the leaves of time. It regards beings, each of which is a meaningful letter, as bearing the meaning of another. That is, it looks at them on account of their maker. It says, how beautifully they have been made, how exquisitely they point to their maker's beauty, thus showing the universe's true beauty. But the philosophy they call natural philosophy or science has plunged into the decorations of the letters of beings and into their relationships, and has become bewildered. It has confused the way of reality. While the letters of this mighty book should be looked at as bearing the meaning of another, that is, on account of God they have not done this. They have looked at beings as signifying themselves. That is, they have looked at beings on account of beings, and have discussed them in that way. Instead of saying, how beautifully they have been made, they say, how beautiful they are, and have made them ugly. In doing this, they have insulted the universe and made it complain about them. Indeed, philosophy without religion is a sophistry divorced from reality and an insult to the universe. Second principle. A comparison between the moral training the wisdom of the All-Wise Qur'an gives to personal life and what philosophy and science teach. The sincere student of philosophy is a pharaoh, but he is a contemptible pharaoh who worships the basest thing for the sake of benefit. He recognizes everything from which he can profit as his lord. And that irreligious student is obstinate and refractory, but he is wretched together with his obstinacy and accepts endless abasement for the sake of one pleasure. And he is abject together with his recalcitrance and shows his abasement by kissing the feet of satanic individuals for the sake of some base benefit. And that irreligious student is conceited and domineering, but since he can find no point of support in his heart, he is an utterly impotent, blustering tyrant. And that student is a self-centered seeker of benefit, whose aim and endeavor is to gratify his animal appetites, a crafty egotist who seeks his personal interests within certain nationalist interests. However, the sincere student of Quranic wisdom is a servant, but he does not stoop to worship even the greatest of creatures. He is an esteemed slave who does not take a supreme benefit like paradise as the aim of his worship. And its student is humble. He's righteous and mild, yet outside the limits of his maker's leave, he would not voluntarily lower and abase himself before anything other than his maker. And he's weak and in want, and he knows his weakness and poverty. But he is self-sufficient due to the wealth which his all-generous Lord has stored up for him in the hereafter. And he is strong since he relies on his Master's infinite power, and he acts and strives only for God's sake, for God's pleasure, and for virtue. Thus the training the two give may be understood from the comparison of the two students. Third principle. The training philosophy and science and Quranic wisdom give to human social life is this. Philosophy accepts force as its point of support in the life of society. It considers its aim to be benefits. The principle of its life it recognizes to be conflict. It holds the bond between communities to be racialism and negative nationalism. Its fruits are gratifying the appetites of the soul and increasing human needs. However, the mark of force is aggression. The mark of benefit, since they are insufficient for every desire, is jostling and tussling, while the mark of conflict is strife, and the mark of racialism, since it is nourished by devouring others, is aggression. It is for these reasons that it has negated the happiness of mankind. As for the Quranic wisdom, its point of support is truth instead of force. It takes virtue and God's pleasure as its aims in place of benefits. It takes the principle of mutual assistance as the principle of life in place of the principle of conflict. And it takes the ties of religion, class and country to be the ties bonding communities. Its aim is to form a barrier against the lusts of the soul, urge the spirit to sublime matters, satisfy the high emotions, and urging man to the human perfections, make him a true human being. And the mark of the truth is accord. The mark of virtue is solidarity. The mark of mutual assistance is hastening to assist one another. The mark of religion is brotherhood and attraction. And the mark of reining in and tethering the soul and leaving the spirit free and urging it towards perfections is happiness in this world and the next. Fourth principle. If you want to understand the Qur'an's superiority among all the divine scriptures and its supremacy over all speech and writings, then consider the following two comparisons. The first, a king has two forms of speech, two forms of address. One is to speak on his private telephone with a common subject concerning some minor matter, some private need. The other, under the title of sublime sovereignty, supreme vicegerent and universal rulership, is to speak with an envoy or high official for the purpose of making known and promulgating his commands, to make an utterance through an elevated decree proclaiming his majesty. The second, one man holds the mirror. He is holding up to the sun. He receives light containing the 7 colors according to the capacity of the mirror. He becomes connected to the sun through that relation and converses with it. And if he directs the light-filled mirror towards his dark house or his garden covered by a roof, he will benefit, not in relation to the sun's value, but in accordance with the capacity of the mirror. Another man, however, opens up broad windows out of his house, or out of the roof of his garden. He opens up ways to the sun in the sky. He converses with the perpetual light of the actual sun, and speaks with it, and says in gratitude through the tongue of his disposition, "O you beauty of the world, who gilds the face of the earth with your light, and makes the faces of the flowers smile. O beauty of the skies, fine sun, you have furnished my little house and garden with light and heat, the same as you have furnished them with light and heat." Whereas the man with the mirror cannot say that. The reflection and works of the sun under that restriction are limited. They are in accordance with the restriction. Look at the Qur'an through the telescope of these two comparisons and see its miraculousness and understand its sacredness. The Qur'an says, if all the trees on the land were to become pens and all the seas ink, and if they were to write the words of Almighty God, they would never come to the end of them. Now, the reason the Qur'an has been given the highest rank among the infinite words of God is this. The Qur'an has come from the greatest divine name and from the greatest level of every name. It is God's word in respect of his being sustainer of all the worlds. It is his decree through his title of God of all beings, an address in regard to his being creator of the heavens and the earth, a conversation in regard to absolute dominicality, a pre-eternal address on account of universal divine sovereignty, a notebook of the favors of the most merciful one from the point of view of his all-embracing comprehensive mercy, a collection of communications at the beginnings of which are sometimes ciphers related to the sublime majesty of the Godhead. A wisdom-scattering holy scripture which, descending from the reaches of the greatest name, looks to and inspects the all-comprehensive domain of the Supreme Throne. It is for these reasons that the title of Word of God has been given with complete worthiness to the Qur'an. In respect to the other divine words, they are speech which has become evident through a particular regard, a minor title, through the partial manifestation of a particular name, through a particular dominicality, special sovereignty, a private mercy. Their degrees vary in regard to particularity and universality. Most inspiration is of this sort, but its degrees vary greatly. For example, the most particular and simple is the inspiration of the animals. Then there is the inspiration of the ordinary people. Then the inspiration of ordinary angels. Then the inspiration of the saints. Then the inspiration of the higher angels. Thus, it is for this reason that a saint who offers supplications directly without means, by the telephone of the heart, says,
حدثني قلبي عن ربي.
My heart tells me news of my sustainer. He does not say, it tells me of the sustainer of all the worlds. And he says, my heart is the mirror, the throne of my sustainer. He does not say, it is the throne of the sustainer of all the worlds. For he can manifest the address to the extent of its capacity, and to the degree nearly 70,000 veils have been raised. Thus, however much higher and more elevated is the decree of a king promulgated in respect of his supreme sovereignty than the insignificant speech of a common man, and however much more abundantly the effulgence of the sun in the sky may be benefited from than the manifestation of its reflection in the mirror, and however greater is its superiority, to that degree the Qur'an of mighty stature is superior to all other speech and all other books. After the Qur'an, at the second level the holy books and revealed scriptures have superiority according to their degree. They have their share from the mystery of that superiority. If all the fine words of all men and jinn which do not issue from the Qur'an were to be gathered together, they still could not attain to the sacred rank of the Qur'an and imitate it. If you want to understand a little of how the Qur'an comes from the greatest name and from the greatest level of every name, consider the universal elevated statements of Ayat al-Kursi and the following verses.
عنده مفاتح الغيب.
And with him are the keys of the unseen. Quran chapter 6, verse 59.
قل اللهم مالك الملك.
O God, Lord of all dominion. Quran chapter 3, verse 26.
يغشي الليل النهار يطلبه حثيثا والشمس والقمر والنجوم مسخرات بأمره.
He draws the night as a veil over day, each seeking the other in rapid succession. He created the sun, the moon, and the stars, all subject to his command. Quran chapter 7, verse 54.
يا أرض ابلعي ماءك ويا سماء أقلعي.
O earth, swallow up your water, and O sky, withhold your rain. Quran chapter 11, verse 44.
تسبح له السماوات السبع والأرض ومن فيهن.
The heavens and the earth and all within them extol and glorify him. Quran chapter 17, verse 44.
ما خلقكم ولا بعثكم إلا كنفس واحدة.
The creation of you all and the resurrection of you all is but like that of a single soul. Quran chapter 31, verse 28.
إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال.
We did indeed offer the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains. Quran chapter 33, verse 72.
يوم نطوي السماء كطي السجل للكتب.
The day that we roll up the heavens like a scroll rolled up for books, completed. Quran chapter 21, verse 104.
وما قدر الله حق قدره والأرض جميعا قبضته يوم القيامة.
No just estimate have they made of God, such as is due to him. On the day of judgment the whole of the earth will be but his handful. Quran chapter 39, verse 67.
لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته.
Had we sent down this Quran on a mountain, you would indeed have seen it humble itself and cleave asunder for fear of God. Quran chapter 59, verse 21. And study the surahs which begin
الحمد لله
or
سبح
or
يسبح.
and see the rays of this mighty mystery. Look too at the openings of the
ألف لام ميم ألف لام را حاميم.
and understand the Quran's importance in the sight of God. If you have understood the valuable mystery of this fourth principle, you have understood that revelation mostly comes to the prophets by means of an angel, and inspiration is mostly without means. You will have also understood the reason why the greatest saint cannot attain to the level of a prophet. And you will have understood too the Qur'an's sublimity and its sacred grandeur, and the mystery of its elevated miraculousness. So too, you will have understood the mystery of the necessity of the Prophet Muhammad's ascension. That is, that he went to the heavens, to the furthest lote tree, to the distance of 2 bow lengths, offered supplications to the All-Glorious One, who is
أقرب إليه من حبل الوريد.
closer to him than his jugular vein, and in the twinkling of an eye returned whence he came. Indeed, just as the splitting of the moon was a miracle of his messengership, whereby he demonstrated his prophethood to the jinn and mankind, so the ascension was a miracle of his worship and servitude to God, whereby he demonstrated to the spirits and angels that he was God's beloved.
اللهم صل وسلم عليه وعلى آله كما يليق برحمتك وبحرمته. آمين.
O God, grant blessings and peace to him and to his family, as befits your mercy, and in veneration of him. Amen. This section is taken from 16th Flash.
سبحانه وإن من شيء إلا يسبح بحمده. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
In his name be he glorified, and there is nothing but it glorifies him with praise. Quran chapter 17 verse 44. Peace and God's mercy and blessings be upon you, my dear and loyal brothers from Senirkant, Ibrahim, Shukru, Hafız Bekir, Hafız Hüseyin, Hafız Recep Efendi. The atheists have for a long time objected to the 3 matters you sent with Hafız Tevfik. The first, according to the explicit meaning of the verse,
حتى إذا بلغ مغرب الشمس وجدها تغرب في عين حمئة.
until when he reached the setting of the sun, he found it set in a spring of murky water. Quran chapter 18 verse 86. He saw the sun setting in a hot mud spring. The second, where is the barrier of Dhul Qarnayn? The third, this is about Jesus, upon whom be peace, coming at the end of time, and killing the Dajjal, or Antichrist. The answers to these questions are lengthy, so indicating them briefly, we say this. Since the verses of the Quran express matters in accordance with the styles of Arabic, in conformity with apparent meanings, in a way everyone will understand, they frequently explain things in the form of metaphors, allegories, and comparisons. So, to consider the verse,
تغرب في عين حمئة.
set in a spring of murky water. Dhul-Qarnayn saw the sun setting on the shores of the Atlantic Ocean, which appeared to be a boiling, muddy spring, or in the fiery, smoking crater of a volcano. That is, evidently the Atlantic Ocean appeared to Dhul-Qarnayn in the distance as the large pool of a spring surrounded by a swamp, which in the intense heat of summer was steaming and vaporizing. He saw the sun's apparent setting in a part of it, or he saw the sun, the eye of the skies, being hidden in a new fiery crater at the summit of a volcano, which was spewing out rocks, earth, and lava. Yes, the All-Wise Qur'an's miraculously eloquent expression teaches many matters with this sentence. Firstly, it explains that Dhul-Qarnayn's journey to the west coincided with the intense heat of summer, the area of a swamp, sunset, and the time of a volcanic eruption, and so alludes to many instructive matters such as the complete conquest of Africa. It is well known that the sun's motion is apparent, indicating the hidden movement of the earth and giving news of it. What it intends is not the actual setting of the sun. Also, the spring is a metaphor. From the distance, a large sea appears to be a small pool. It is most meaningful and apt, according to the mysteries of eloquence. Footnote starts. In accordance with the mysteries of rhetoric, the word spring, ein, in a spring of murky water, makes a subtle allusion as follows. After gazing on the beauty of divine mercy, on the face of the earth, the eye of the sun in the face of the sky, and after beholding divine tremendousness above, the eye of the sea in the earth, these two eyes close one within the other, and the eyes on the earth close also. Thus, with one miraculous word, the Qur'an recalls this, and alludes to eyes resting from their duties. Footnote ends. To liken a sea appearing beyond swamps with mists and vapours rising from it due to the heat to a muddy spring, with word ein, which in Arabic means both spring and sun and eye. It appeared like that to Dhul-Qarnayn because of the distance. So too the Qur'an comes from the sublime throne and commands the heavenly bodies, so its heavenly address stating that the subjugated sun, which performs the duty of a lamp in this guest house of the most merciful one, is hidden in a dominical spring like the Atlantic Ocean, is fitting for its loftiness and sublimity. With its miraculous style, it shows the sea to be a hot spring and steaming eye. And that is how it appears to heavenly eyes. In short, the use of the term a muddy spring for the Atlantic Ocean indicates that Dhul-Qarnayn saw that huge ocean as a spring due to the distance. But because the Qur'an sees everything from close to, it did not see what Dhul-Qarnayn saw, which was a sort of illusion. Indeed, since the Qur'an comes from the heavens and looks to them, it sometimes sees the earth as an arena, sometimes as a palace, sometimes as a cradle, and sometimes as a page. So it's calling the vast, misty, vaporous Atlantic Ocean. A spring shows its lofty sublimity. From the third addendum, the seventh flash. This is about the 7 sorts of predictions about the unseen at the end of Surah Al-Fath.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate.
لقد صدق الله رسوله الرؤيا بالحق لتدخلن المسجد الحرام إن شاء الله آمنين محلقين رؤوسكم ومقصرين لا تخافون فعلم ما لم تعلموا فجعل من دون ذلك فتحا قريبا هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا محمد رسول الله والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا سيماهم في وجوههم من أثر السجود ذلك مثلهم في التوراة ومثلهم في الإنجيل كزرع أخرج شطأه فآزره فاستغلظ فاستوى على سوقه يعجب الزراع ليغيظ بهم الكفار وعد الله الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات منهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما.
Truly did God fulfill the vision for his messenger? You shall enter the sacred mosque, if God wills, with mind secure, head shaved, hair cut short, and without fear. For he knew what you knew not, and he granted besides this a victory soon to come. It is he who sent his messenger with guidance and the religion of truth, to proclaim it over all religion, and enough is God for a witness. Muhammad is the messenger of God, and those who are with him are strong against unbelievers, but compassionate among each other. You will see them bow and prostrate themselves in prayer, seeking grace from God and his good pleasure. On their faces are their marks, being the traces of their prostration. This is their similitude in the Torah, and their similitude in the gospel is like a seed which sends forth its blade, then makes it strong. It then becomes thick, and it stands on its own stem, filling the sowers with wonder and delight. As a result, it fills the unbelievers with rage at them. God has promised those among them who believe and do righteous deeds forgiveness and a great reward. Quran chapter 48, verses from 27 to 29. These 3 verses from Surah Al-Fath contain many aspects of miraculousness. The Quran of Miraculous Exposition's miraculousness has 10 universal aspects. The aspect related to its giving news of the unseen may be seen in 7 or 8 ways in these 3 verses. The first,
لقد صدق الله رسوله الرؤيا.
Truly did God fulfill the vision for his messenger, to the end of the verse, gave certain news of the conquest of Mecca before it happened. It occurred 2 years later, just as predicted. The second,
فجعل من دون ذلك فتحا قريبا.
And he granted besides this a victory soon to come, is stating that although the truce of Hudaybiyah was apparently opposed to Islam's interests and the Quraysh were victorious to an extent, in reality it was a great victory and the key to further conquests. For with the truce, the physical sword was temporarily hung up, but the flashing diamond sword of the Quran was unsheathed, and it conquered minds and hearts. As a result of it, the 2 sides mixed with one another. The virtues of Islam and lights of the Quran rent the veils of obduracy and tribalism and prevailed. For example, people like Khalid ibn al-Walid, a brilliant warrior, and Amr ibn al-As, a brilliant politician who could not accept defeat, were defeated by the Quranic sword manifested through the truce of Hudaybiyah. They submitted in perfect obedience to Islam in Medina, and Khalid became a sword of Allah, a sword in the conquests of Islam. An important question: what was the reason the companions of the noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, the glory of the world and beloved of the sustainer of all the worlds, were defeated by the idolaters at the end of Uhud and beginning of Hunain? The answer: among the idolaters were many persons like Khalid, who in the future would be equal to the leading companions of that time. Therefore, so as not to degrade them entirely in the view of the future, which for them would be glorious and honorable, divine wisdom gave them in the past immediate recompense for their future good works, and did not completely destroy their pride. That is to say, the companions of the past were defeated by the companions of the future, so that the future companions would enter Islam, not through fear of the flashing sword, but through zeal for the flash of truth, and so that they and their natural valor should not be brought low. The third,
لا تخافون.
the words, and without fear, say this: you shall circumambulate the Kaaba in complete safety. However, at that time the majority of the nomadic peoples of the Arabian Peninsula were hostile, and most of the environs of Mecca and the tribe of Quraysh enemies. By predicting, soon you shall circumambulate the Kaaba without fear, it was indicating and foretelling that the Arabian Peninsula would submit, and all the Quraysh enter Islam, and total security be established. And it all occurred exactly as predicted. The fourth,
هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله.
he it is who sent his messenger with guidance and the religion of truth to proclaim it over all religion, predicts with complete certainty that the religion which the noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, brought would triumph over all religions. However, at that time Christianity, Judaism, and Zoroastrianism had hundreds of millions of adherents and were the official religions of such world-dominant states as Rome, China, and Persia, which had hundreds of millions of subjects, and Muhammad the Arabian was unable to subdue his own small tribe even. Yet it is foretelling that the religion he brought would triumph over all religions and be victorious over all states. And it does this most clearly and categorically. The future confirmed this prediction, with the sword of Islam extending from the Pacific Ocean in the east to the Atlantic Ocean in the west. The fifth,
محمد رسول الله والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا سجدا.
Muhammad is the messenger of God, and those who are with him are strong against unbelievers, but compassionate among each other. You will see them bow and prostrate themselves. The beginning of this verse foretells explicitly the lofty qualities and virtues that made the companions the most elevated of humankind after the prophets, and elusively it indicates the rightly guided caliphs who would succeed to the prophets, upon whom be peace, position after his death through the institution of the caliphate, and foretells the fine attributes which were what most distinguished each of them and marked them out. It is as follows:
والذين معه.
And those who are with him alludes to Abu Bakr the Veracious, who was distinguished by being among the prophets, upon whom be peace, special followers and party to his conversation, and again being included among his special followers by being the first to die. While
أشداء على الكفار.
are strong against the unbelievers points to Umar, who in the future would cause the countries of the globe to tremble at his conquests, and with his justice would descend on tyrants like a thunderbolt. And
رحماء بينهم.
compassionate among each other, gives news of Uthman, who in the future, when the most serious dissension was being fomented, would sacrifice his own life and spirit out of his perfect compassion, so that the blood of Muslims shouldn't be spilt. He preferred to be martyred wrongfully while reading the Qur'an. And
تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا.
you will see them bow and prostrate themselves in prayer, seeking grace from God and his good pleasure, tells that with his complete worthiness to undertake the caliphate and government, and his heroism, and his choosing perfect asceticism, worship, poverty, and frugality, and whose bowing and prostrating in prayer was corroborated by everyone. Ali, may God be pleased with him, was not responsible for his position in the future and the wars and strife in which he was involved, and that his intention and wish were for divine favor. The sixth,
ذلك مثلهم في التوراة.
the phrase, This is their similitude in the Torah, makes predictions concerning the unseen in two respects. The first, it cites these qualities of the companions that are mentioned in the Torah, which for an unlettered person like the prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace, belong to the world of the unseen. Yes, as described in the 19th letter, the Torah contains the following lines about the companions of the prophet who was to come at the end of time. The banners of the holy ones are together with them. That is, his companions would be pious worshippers and righteous saints, so that they were described as the holy ones, that is, sacred. The Torah has been corrupted through translation into numerous languages, yet with many of its verses it still corroborates the words of Surah Al-Fath.
مثلهم في التوراة.
This is their similitude in the Torah. The second aspect of it giving news of the unseen is this. With this phrase, it is predicting that the companions and the generation that followed them would achieve such a degree of worship that the luminosity of their spirits would shine in their faces, and that marks would be apparent on their foreheads like a stamp of sainthood caused by their repeated prostrations. And indeed, the future proved this brilliantly, with complete clarity and certainty. Many prominent persons caught up in that strange dissension and political upheaval demonstrated the mystery of
مثلهم في التوراة.
This is their similitude in the Torah, who day and night perform prayers of 1,000 rakats like Zayn al-Abidin, and perform the morning prayer with the ablutions of the previous evening, like Tavus al-Yamani. The seventh,
ومثلهم في الإنجيل كزرع أخرج شطأه فآزره فاستغلظ فاستوى على سوقه يعجب الزراع ليغيظ بهم الكفار.
And their similitude in the gospel is, like a seed which sends forth its blade, then makes it strong. It then becomes thick, and it stands on its own stem, filling the sowers with wonder and delight. As a result, it fills the unbelievers with rage at them. These phrases give news of the unseen in two respects. The first is the prediction in the gospel about the companions, which for the unlettered prophet, upon whom be peace, belonged to the world of the unseen. Yes, the Gospels contain such verses as
معه قضيب من حديد وأمته كذلك.
With him is a staff of iron, and his community is like him, describing the prophet who was to come at the end of time. That is, a prophet would come who, unlike Jesus, upon whom be peace, would wield a sword and be charged with waging jihad, as would his companions. The one bearing the staff of iron would be the world's ruler. For in another place in the Gospels it says, I am going so that the ruler of the world may come. John chapter 16, verse 7. That is to say, the world's ruler will come. It is thus understood from these two verses in the Gospels that at the outset the companions would be few and weak. Nevertheless, they would sprout like seeds, grow, thicken, and find strength. Then when about to be overwhelmed and smothered by the rage this caused the unbelievers, they would subjugate mankind with their swords and prove that the messenger, upon whom be peace, their leader, was the ruler of the world. These verses express exactly the meaning of the above verses of Surah Al-Fath. Second aspect, the verses predict the following. Due to their weakness and small number, the companions accepted the Pact of Hudaybiyah, but within a short time they grew and acquired such strength and loftiness that, planted by the hand of power in the field of the face of the earth, they multiplied in most elevated, powerful, fruitful and plentiful fashion. This was true in comparison with the shoots of mankind at that time, since these latter were short, weak, defective and scant due to neglect and heedlessness. The companions would grow strong, causing illustrious governments to rage at them in envy, jealousy and anger. The future verified this prediction in most brilliant fashion. The prediction also makes the following further slight hint. It indicates, through the word
مغفرة,
forgiveness, that, although while praising the companions' excellent qualities, they should have been promised the greatest rewards, in the future they would commit serious errors due to strife. For forgiveness indicates the existence of faults. At that time, it would be forgiveness, the greatest bounty, that the companions would want. The highest reward would be absence of punishment, thanks to forgiveness. The word
مغفرة,
forgiveness both makes this subtle allusion, and it is connected with the verse at the beginning of the surah.
ليغفر لك الله ما تقدم من ذنبك وما تأخر.
That God may forgive you your faults of the past and those to follow. Quran chapter 48 verse 2. By giving the good news of forgiveness at the start of the surah, not for true sins, since the Messenger, upon whom be peace, was exempt from sin and did not commit them, but for a meaning in keeping with the rank of prophethood, and by giving the good news of forgiveness for the companions at the end of the surah, it adds a further subtlety to the allusion. Of the 10 aspects of miraculousness contained in the above-mentioned 3 verses at the end of Surah Al-Fath, we have discussed here only the aspect concerning predictions about the unseen, and of the numerous parts of that aspect, only 7. A flash of miraculousness in the positioning of the letters of the last verse is alluded to at the end of the 26th word, which is about divine determining and man's faculty of will. This last verse looks to the companions both with its sentences and to their situations with its phrases, and it describes their attributes with its words and letters. So too, with the repetition of the number of letters, it alludes to classes of famous companions, like the companions of Badr, of Uhud, of Hunayn, of the Bench, and of Ridwan. Moreover, it expresses many further mysteries through coincidences and abjad reckoning, which are branches of the science of Jafar and keys to it.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم.
Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all-knowing, all-wise. Quran, chapter 2, verse 32. Predictions similar to these concerning the unseen, indicated by the elusive meanings of the verses at the end of Surah Al-Fath, will be discussed here briefly, also in connection with their elusive meanings. A postscript:
ولهديناهم صراطا مستقيما ومن يطع الله والرسول فأولئك مع الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا.
And we should have shown them the straight way. All who obey God and the Messenger are in the company of those on whom is the grace of God, of the prophets, the veracious, the witnesses, or martyrs, and the righteous. And how goodly a company are these! Quran chapter 4 verses 68 and 69. We shall point out 2 of the thousands of fine points expounding these verses. First point: just as the Quran of miraculous exposition expresses truths through its explicit, clear meanings and senses, so it expresses many elusive meanings through its styles and manner of exposition. Each of its verses contains numerous levels of meanings. The Quran proceeds from all-encompassing knowledge, so all its meanings may be intended. Its meanings are not restricted to 1 or 2 like man's speech, the product of his limited mind and individual will. In consequence of this, innumerable truths contained in the Quran's verses have been expounded by Quranic commentators, and there are many more that have not been expounded by them. In addition to its explicit meanings, much significant knowledge is contained in its letters in particular and in its allusions. Second point, with the terms
من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا
of the prophets, the veracious, the witnesses or martyrs, and the righteous, and how goodly a company are these. The verse describes the people of the straight path and the groups of the prophets, the caravan of the veracious, the community of the martyrs, the class of the righteous, and those who follow them. These are the members of mankind who truly receive the divine bounties. Furthermore, having indicated explicitly the most perfect of those 5 groups in the world of Islam, it indicates their leaders and chiefs by mentioning their well-known attributes. In addition, with a flash of miraculousness giving news of the unseen, it specifies one aspect, those chiefs' positions in the future. Yes,
من النبيين
of the prophets looks explicitly to the messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, and the phrase,
والصديقين
the veracious, looks to Abu Bakr the veracious. It also indicates that he would be second after the messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, and first to succeed him, and be known by the special title of veracious, and be seen at the head of all honest and upright people. Then,
والشهداء
the witnesses or martyrs refers to Umar, Uthman, and Ali. May God be pleased with all of them together. It intimates that the 3 of them would succeed to the caliphate after the veracious one, and that the 3 of them would be martyred and the merits of martyrdom added to their other virtues.
والصالحين
The righteous alludes to distinguished persons, like the companions of the bench, and of Badr and Ridwan, while with its explicit meaning,
وحسن أولئك رفيقا
and how goodly a company are these, encourages others to follow them, and with its implicit meaning, by showing the generation that succeeded them to be honored and illustrious, it alludes to Hassan, may God be pleased with him, who as the 5th caliph affirmed the hadith,
إن الخلافة بعدي 30 سنة
after me, the caliphate will last 30 years, in order to show its great value despite its brief duration. In short, similarly to the verses at the end of Surah Al-Fath, which look to the 4 rightly guided caliphs, affirming them, these verses look in part and allusively to their future positions in a way that gives news of the unseen. Flashes of this sort of miraculousness, the disclosing of facts about the unseen, which is one sort of the Qur'an's miraculousness, are so numerous as to be incalculable. Literalist scholars limit them to 40 or 50 verses because of their superficial view, but in reality they number more than 1,000. Sometimes a single verse has 4 or 5 aspects giving news of the unseen.
ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم.
O our Sustainer, do not take us to task if we forget or do wrong. Quran chapter 2 verse 286. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed you are all-knowing, all-wise. Quran chapter 2 verse 32. A second explanation of the above postscript. Footnote. My brothers have written down both explanations since they found them useful. Otherwise, one of them would have been sufficient. The following verse, which confirms the unseen indication of the concluding verses of Surah Al-Fath, clarifies who is meant by the people of the straight path in Surah Al-Fatiha, and by the verse,
صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم.
The path of those you have blessed, and which, on the very long road to eternity, points to the most radiant, intimate, numerous and attractive caravan of companions, miraculously urges the people of faith and those of awareness to join and accompany that caravan.
فأولئك مع الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا.
They will be with those whom God has blessed, the prophets, the truthful, the martyrs, and the righteous, and how excellent these companions are. Quran, chapter 4, verse 69. Like the final verse of Surah Al-Fath, this verse, beyond its explicit intended meaning, also alludes through indicative and symbolic meanings described in rhetoric as ma'arid al-kalam and mustatba'at al-tarakab to the four rightly guided caliphs and to the fifth caliph, Hassan, may God be pleased with him. From several aspects it gives news of matters of the unseen. This may be explained as follows. Just as the above verse states through its explicit meaning that the caravan of the prophets, the group of the veracious, the community of the martyrs, the category of the righteous, and the class of the generation following the companions are the people of the straight path, and those among mankind who receive elevated divine bounties and are the doers of good. So too it indicates in a manner predicting the unseen that the best and most excellent of those groups are found in the world of Islam. Like this, it points to the heirs of the prophets who follow on in succession through the mystery of the legacy of the messenger of the end of times, upon whom be peace, prophethood, and to the caravan of the veracious who follow on from the source of veracity of the strictly veracious one, and to the convoy of the martyrs, who are bound through the rank of martyrdom to three of the rightly guided caliphs, and to the community of the righteous, who are tied to it through the mystery of
والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات,
and those who believe and do good works, Quran chapter 2 verse 82, and to the categories of the generation following the companions who represented the mystery of
قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله.
Say, if you do love God, follow me. God will love you and forgive you your sins, for God is oft forgiving, most merciful. Quran chapter 3 verse 31. And we're in the company of the companions and the rightly guided caliphs. So too, through its elusive meaning, it gives news through the epithet
والصديقين,
and the veracious, that Abu Bakr the veracious would succeed to the noble messengers, upon whom be blessings and peace, position after him, and would be caliph, famous among the Muslim community with the title strictly veracious, and be the chief of the caravan of the veracious. With the phrase
والشهداء,
the martyrs, it foretells the martyrdom of three of the rightly guided caliphs, and that after the veracious there would three martyr caliphs, because martyrs
شهداء,
is plural, and the lowest number in Arabic grammar of the plural is 3. That means Umar, Uthman and Ali, may God be pleased with them, would lead Islam after the veracious one, and would suffer martyrdom, and it occurred exactly as predicted. Also, it is giving news through the phrase
والصالحين,
the righteous, that people like the people of the bench, Sufa, who performed good works, acts of worship and feared God, and are commended in the Torah, would be numerous in the future. While the phrase
وحسن أولئك رفيقا,
how goodly a company are these, praises the generation that followed the companions and accompanied them in learning and good works. And in addition to showing that to accompany those four groups on the road to eternity is good and commendable, it indicates the importance of Hassan's brief period as caliph, as was confirmed by the messengers, upon whom be peace, prophecies.
إن الخلافة بعدي 30 سنة.
The caliphate after me will last 30 years. And
ابني حسن هذا سيد سيصلح الله به بين فئتين عظيمتين.
this my grandson Hassan is master of men, by means of whom God will reconcile two great groups, thus quelling dispute and conflict. In this way, it indicates that Hassan would be a fifth caliph succeeding the four rightly guided caliphs, while through a device called in rhetoric mustatba'at al-tarakab. It alludes to the fifth caliph's name with the phrase,
وحسن أولئك رفيقا.
how goodly, hasuna, a company are these. There are many further mysteries like these elusive predictions, but since they are outside our purpose, that door has not been answered for now. Numerous verses of the All-Wise Qur'an give news of the unseen in many respects. This sort of the Qur'an's predictions about the unseen number thousands.
ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا.
Our Lord, do not hold us accountable if we forget or make a mistake. Quran chapter 2 verse 286.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم.
Glory be to you. We have no knowledge except what you have taught us. Indeed, you are the all-knowing, the all-wise. Quran chapter 2 verse 32. Conclusion. A miraculous subtle point of the All-Wise Qur'an that is manifested through coincidences is as follows. Footnote. Coincidence, tevafuk, the correspondence of letters or words in lines or patterns on one or several pages. In the All-Wise Qur'an, the divine names of Allah, merciful, Rahman, compassionate, Rahim, sustainer, Rabb, and He, Hu, in place of Allah, are mentioned approximately 4,000 times in all. The second type of abjad, reckoned according to the arrangement of the alphabet, makes the value of
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, around 4,000 also. Small fractions of large numbers do not spoil coincidence, so have been disregarded. Also, together with the two conjunctival wars within,
ألف لام ميم.
it makes approximately 280. In addition to coinciding with both the approximately 280 instances of the word Allah in Surah Al-Baqarah and the around 280 verses of the surah, if reckoned with the second sort of abjad reckoning, it again makes about 4,000. That coincides both with the 5 famous divine names mentioned above, and if the fractions are disregarded, with the numerical value of
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. That is to say, according to this mystery of coincidence,
ألف لام ميم.
is both a title denoting the one it signifies, and a name for Al-Baqarah, and a name of the Qur'an, and a concise index of both of them, and a sample, summary and seed of both, and a summary of
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. According to the well-known abjad system,
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, is equal in numerical value to the name of sustainer. Similarly, if the doubled Ra in
الرحمن الرحيم.
the merciful, the compassionate, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, is counted twice, it becomes 990 and a key to numerous important mysteries, with its 19 letters, the key to 19,000 worlds. Among the subtle coincidences of the word Allah in the Qur'an of miraculous exposition is that in the whole Qur'an, 80 instances of the word at the beginning of the bottom line of pages correspond to each other in patterns. So too do 80 instances of the name at the end of the bottom line look to each other in the same way. And again, 55 instances of the word Allah, right in the center of the bottom line, fall one on top of the other, uniting as though to make a single instance of the name. At the start of the last line, a single and sometimes three-letter word numbers with gaps 25. Thus, when added to the coinciding 55 at the middle of the lines, makes a coincidence of 80. This makes a coincidence of 80, both at the beginning of the line and at the end. Could such a subtle, fine, orderly, symmetrical, miraculous coincidence be without wisdom or subtlety? God forbid such a thing could not be. Most certainly significant treasuries could be opened up with the tip of these coincidences.
ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم.
O our Sustainer, do not take us to task if we forget or do wrong. Quran chapter 2 verse 286. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all-knowing, all-wise. Quran chapter 2 verse 32. Said Nursi.